For one to describe the sleazy, gritty, grimy New York City in the 1970s is nearly impossible to put into words. It's something you truly have to see, or I should say feel for yourself, to understand what it was like to be on the city streets in New York City of Times Square, walking through the Deuce, being out in front of Madison Square Garden before a big event. That's just something you just cannot put into words. New York City was electric. It was shocking. It was exciting. It was scary. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. It was beautiful, all at the same time. It's just something that you just can't describe, and there's anything that's going to surprise someone in New York, because we've seen everything, or at least we thought that anyway. What we here in the Northeast were oblivious of was a war that had broken out in the state of Florida in 1977. A war between Florida heavyweight champion, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and superstar Billy Graham, the challenger for that Florida championship. Now, Superstar Graham would shock the state of Florida and take that title from Dusty Rhodes, and that would kick off a war that spilled miles of blood up and down the state of Florida. Well, in 1977, in September to be exact, the New York fans had no idea that feud had just walked through the front door of Madison Square Garden. Welcome to 1978. Thanks for being with me once again. For those of you who have been here, you know how this works. You know the deal with how we run our timeline deep dives for how magazines were released on the newsstands. And for the new people who haven't been here, where you been? What we're going to do is, first of all, welcome. And what we're going to do is go through every single magazine in the United States that was released on the newsstands in the year of 1978. And we're going to go month by month, every issue, January, February, etc. And I also threw in several key programs from Madison Square Garden with some of the key matches for that year, as well as some of the issues that were released in Japan, and even a few boxing magazines that had some fantastic historical Rocky moments, shockers in the sport of boxing, and we're going to touch on those briefly as well. Right out of the gate, and I was mentioning in the beginning here about a war that broke out in Florida, and this is an issue from 1977. Superstar Billy Graham in a strap match, which would be considered either a death match, Texas death match, or strap match. This was considered Superstar Graham's specialty. He was in a bunch of those with Wahoo McDaniel and several others in the AWA before coming over to Florida, and he was very successful. Dusty Rhodes, known as King of the Bull Rope match, and this is the precursor for any of us in the Northeast weren't privy to any of these matches. We would know about it from the magazines only, or the few people who were lucky enough to get Championship Wrestling from Florida on their TV screen. Most of the time it was on an off channel or the Spanish channel. But here is the start of that war that broke out in 1977. This is a feud that would go on for the next 3 years, so we're going to discuss a lot of that. The hype of it all was really in 1978. Right off the bat, issue number 1, January, we're going to go from Inside Wrestling, the Wrestler Sports Review, all through the Westons, down through the other companies of the lesser-known companies. When you see a new issue of Inside Wrestling, that's the start of the new month, if I don't say it to you. This way you know as a reference what that first issue was. January 78, and the Sheik, Terry Funk, Cobo Hall get the main shot on the corner here. Superstar Billy Graham and the Grand Wizard, and this is Superstar Graham posing before the title match for that September 26th, 1978 match with Dusty Rhodes. And here he is flexing, looking like a gypsy fortune teller with the headrest and the championship belt, looking awesome here. And this will be their first match that's exposing New York crowd, the Northeast crowd, to this war that's about to really explode on the Northeast. The Wrestler has a full page shot of that match. Dusty Rhodes, Superstar Graham, magnificent battle of the Titans. Also Ric Flair, small corner shot at the top for January 78. The Wrestler magazines are now $1 per issue. Dusty once again, 3 for 3, a trifecta for all 3 Western Big League magazines. January 78 Sports Review, wearing the yellow Superman shirt, and Ivan Putski taking on Ken Patera, another WWF cover, 3 in a row. Mil Mascaras taking on, it's not Billy Jack, but somebody from Oregon who wears Oregon on the tights, and Wrestling's Greatest Battles. Loved Wrestling's Greatest Battles. They had new stories. They had a couple of older ones as well, but mostly new stories. And I just like the font. It's so telling of the 1970s. It just looks like something you would see out of a circus or a carnival in that time period. I just loved how they had that font. It was a short-lived magazine, ended relatively soon after this year. I think 78 may have been the final year for it. I always enjoyed that magazine. It's too bad that it didn't stick around. Wrestling Monthly, San Martino on the cover of the January issue. Not much telling here. There's an older picture from 1974 when Bruno had won the title back. Big Book of Wrestling was once owned by Stanley Weston, now sold off to the company in Canada who took over. And Ken Patera, this is signed by Ken Patera. A lot of these issues you're going to see from my signed collection today that are just in here, and for no other reason that it was just easier to find those than it was the other ones because they're right in the front. Another shot of Ken Patera taking on Chief Jay Strombo in the final year of the Ring Wrestling, predominantly a boxing magazine that started in 1922. Some of those issues, those back issues, are ridiculously expensive, and I have many from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Of course, all the way through till 2020. Also, the High Flyers, Gagne and Brunzell, AWA World Tag Team Champions, get the corner shot. Bob Backlund on the cover of the Madison Square Garden program from January 23rd, 1978. This is a match with superstar Billy Graham defending his world title for the last time successfully in Madison Square Garden against Mil Mascaras, and soon to be changing hands, but the magazines are not caught up to this time period yet. So you're going to see the matches are going to be out of order from the magazines because there was a 3 to sometimes 4 month lag time between pressings. In Japan, that wasn't the case. A week later, they would have the match that was the main event on the cover of the next issue. They were quick. They released it like newspapers. Speaking of Japan, this is an issue of Gong, and it's talking about the All Japan World Tag Team Tournament that's coming up. Abdullah and the Sheik teaming up. Also the Funks and Billy Robinson, also part of that tag team tourney. And boxing issue, the World Boxing, January 1978. Shades of Sugar Ray, and they're not talking about Sugar Ray Leonard, they're talking about Robinson here for Howard Davis. New month, February, kicking it off. Ric Flair on the cover with Dusty Rhodes, a battle and a war that would go on for the next 10 years now, and the feud has already started well in 1975 down in Florida, and the feud now is moving up to the Crockett's territory in the Mid-Atlantic, and like I said, a historical feud that's basically just getting underway. And February 1978, superstar Billy Graham getting choked out and hung by Dusty Rhodes in their match that took place in September. And this is, a lot of people confuse this now with their bull rope match. So I want to clear up a few points here that are pretty important. Many people thought there was a bunch of bull rope matches at the Garden, and there wasn't. There was only one. Superstar Graham versus the American Dream in a bull rope happened 8 times, just 8. It was 4 in Florida and 4 in the Northeast. Their very first one, February 12th at the Orlando Sportatorium in 1977. They would have another one March 3rd in Jacksonville Coliseum, March 15th in Tampa, again at the Jacksonville Coliseum on March 31st, the date of the first WrestleMania, and some years later on in the future. This match in Jacksonville Coliseum now would be a coin flip match, meaning if the coin was heads, Dusty Rhodes got the bull rope match. If it was tails, Superstar Graham got the strap match. And like I explained earlier, that was both their specialties, and both of them were known for that particular style match. And Superstar lost the coin flip and also lost the match. So there's your 4 in 1977. You would not see another bull rope match until August of 1978, and that would be at the Garden, kicking it off August 28th. Next one will be October 7th in Springfield Civic Center, Massachusetts. Springfield's about an hour and a half or so from Boston, which, you know, both great venues. I'm surprised Boston Garden didn't get that match, but it's just as good, you know, anywhere else. But you figure Boston, you know, the Garden would have that match going on there. October 9th, 2 days later in Landover, Maryland at the Cap Center. And finishing off their bull rope series, November 18th, 78 at the Philly Spectrum. So people think that this is the bull rope match. The bull rope match did not happen yet. This is a Texas death match, and in many of their matches, including the matches at the Garden, ended with some kind of, you know, chokehold or hanging or beating with a rope or a camera cable or the ring rope that was underneath the ring. And that's what this was. It was a Texas death. Superstar Graham pulls out the rope, Dusty gets it, hangs Graham, and it becomes one of the most iconic photos of all time. What a shot. Superstar Graham, the world champion, being hung by Dusty Rhodes on his first appearance in Madison Square Garden. Talk about putting your name on the mark. What a great looking cover shot this is. And like I said, it will go on to be one of the most iconic and really set Dusty into superstardom. He, at the end of the match, he says, when Superstar Graham had won the match by, I guess, I forget what the outcomes were of some of these matches, but none of them were ever, you know, a clean finish or a title change. But Dusty said, I came a long way to kick your ass, and you better get back out here and let's fight. So that got the fans going, that got everybody riled up. Cool match. I don't know if those are online. I have them all in bootleg copies of DVDs. I watch them all the time, and it's just some fantastic stuff that you're just never ever going to see like that again. It's just a shame. The Winter 78 issue of Victory Sports Annual. You're going to see several annuals and yearbooks. One is from Sports Review. The other is from Victory Sports. So there's two different publications, both by Stanley Weston. And I always love this shot. I mean, here's a fan, just, you know, typical of the time, bell-bottom jeans, pair of boots, cigarette hanging off of his lip, runs into the ring, grabs a hold of Dusty Rhodes and hugs him for that 1 second there before he got kicked out of the ring. And he's encapsulated on the cover of a magazine for eternity. And man, just imagine being that dude. We thought Dusty won the title. He's holding up the belt, but of course, Dusty did not win the title. But what an awesome cover, what a great looking photo. And it's also got the hanging shot. It's funny, watching the match, you see both Bill Apter and George Napolitano both in the front row, and they get thrown right out in front of them. And you see those two elbowing each other, fighting to get the center shot perfect, because they were both for different magazines, but also very good friends as well. But man, it's just great. And I believe this may have been George's. I don't think that was George's shot. Bill had a couple, and he was telling me about it not too long ago, between the two and the photos that they got. And a couple were very similar. And they would also trade photos too. While I'm on the topic, I have something pretty cool planned for the future, and I'm working with Bill Apter on that. He is helping me with that, and we are going to be in touch over the next month or so while I'm planning to put together something pretty cool. And hopefully it works out, and hopefully I can make this work out, and I think everybody would like it. At least I thought it would be pretty cool. So if I can get the right information and the right stuff with Bill's help, and you might see something pretty cool coming up in the next few months. Wrestling World puts out just one issue here for the whole year of 1978. What the hell? They really fell off. That was a very, very dominant magazine in the 60s. Some reason they just almost became extinct. They had one in 78. They had two in 79. 2 in 1980, maybe 4 in 81, and then in 82 they picked back up again, and then they started going to full-time every month. But for some reason in the 70s, they must have hit some hard times. But they picked the right magazine cover to put on as their main shot, Superstar Graham, Texas Death Match with Dusty Rhodes, and that's also what we just looked at. It's not a bull rope match, and we would think it was, but it's not the bull rope yet. Here's the bull rope, and this was much later. This is March of '79's issue. I brought it here just because to stay on the topic, and Big Book of Wrestling covered that bout from Madison Square Garden from August 28th, 1978, and they put it on their magazine. Now, this was a quarterly magazine, so their issues were only 4 times a year. So this dates back a good 6-8 months or so before it actually hit the newsstands. But this is actually from the bull rope match, as well as this magazine from Best of the Wrestler, also the bull rope match. You can see with the cowbell on there, that's the telltale sign. You see the cowbell, you know it's the bull rope. And this was a spring of '81 issue. I know we're outside of '78, but I just wanted you guys to see that. For anyone who wants to collect these issues or find these for your own personal collection, you know what to look for, and I can expose you to them there. Also, the yearbook, fall. We're not in the fall. I jumped it ahead. Like I said, this is the one with Andre the Giant covering as referee. You see Andre right here. And also the spoiler taking on Dusty with their feud in Florida, rekindling. Victory Sports Annual 1978, Superstar Graham having a war with Ivan Putski. Now these guys, when Superstar first came to the territory in '75, he kicked off his short feud before Bruno with Ivan Putski, Battle of the Muscle Men. Ivan had changed his not actually gimmick, but his appearance, his look, I guess his gimmick too. He went from like, the silly, friendly Polish guy, strong man, to, the muscle-bound maniac with a bad temper, with the Polish hammer. Really cool, much better gimmick, I guess you call it that, for Putski, I believe, and rather than, trying to copy the mighty Igor. Dusty again. Now you're seeing a slew of magazines with Dusty on the cover. He's just dominating. This is how hot he is. He's hot in Florida. He's hot in Carolina. He's red hot in New York. Dusty should have grabbed the title from Graham. I mean, I know many of us think that, over Backlund, and everybody has their opinion on Backlund, and you know my opinion on Backlund. I respect the hell out of him. He did a tremendous job as champion, but Dusty, I think, would have carried the title a little bit more, made a little more bang in the buck. And I'm sure some of you feel the same. Dusty again. I should just call this year a year of the Dusty. This is now Sports Review Annual. Last one was Victory Sports. See the difference? Different publication, same publisher. And Dusty, here it is right here. #1 contender in the NWA, #2 contender in the WWF. Also, Race taking on Steamboat now. Most likely, Steamboat is or ready to be the United States champion in the Carolinas. Dusty once again taking on King Curtis Alkea, February '78 Wrestling Superstars, which is a sports review series publication as well. Biting the head of King Curtis right there, pretty cool. Gruesome shot that's typical of the 1970s. Mil Mascaris takes a back seat to nobody when it comes to the magazine covers. He is on a tremendous amount of them as well, and giving the drop kick to Ken Patera in the WWF after the IWA had just recently closed shop and was already popular in New York. The Fabulous Moolah on the cover, Wrestling Monthly of February 1978. Not sure who is on the cover. Dean Ho, possibly. Hard to tell. The Wrestling Review at this point, one time owned by Stanley Weston, long sold in 1964. He sold us in '65. The new publisher took over, and it immediately dropped like a stone. Actually, it was 2 other ones. There was another one, Norman Keitzer had it, and then he would sold it off after that, and it went to Canada with the others from like Big Book and Complete and all them. Popular Wrestling is another, in my opinion, lousy magazine. Just was not good. Didn't have the best photos, in and out of focus. You know, the covers were, you know, to be determined. Some were good, some were bad. You know, we usually, as kids especially, judged a good magazine by how good the cover was, and that's the truth. It's not a book. You don't judge a book by a cover, but you certainly judge the magazine by the cover. That's your selling point. This is what's going to suck you in, and if your cover sucks, it's not going to sell. Back to the Garden for February 20th, 1978. Red Hot superstar Billy Graham faces off against the young and up-and-coming Bob Backlund, and Bob Backlund shocks and at the same time depresses 3/4 of the Northeast and defeats superstar Billy Graham for the world title. And wow, didn't see that coming. Shocked everybody, and it's just a... sometimes it's just without words. Just leave it at that. Here's the program. Backlund won the title. Superstar has still had plenty left in the tank. Again, he achieved more than any other heel in the history of the WWF up until that point, and then several dozen years after as a heel. Here is the full lineup inside for those who have never really seen the cover. And I'm filming this in a different format this time, and I'm hoping it comes out right. I usually film vertical rather than horizontal, and I hate filming it vertical. I'd rather film horizontal, but there was so much background and distraction. I wanted the main focus of the video to be the front cover and nothing else, like including myself. You know, you're not here to see me. You're not here to see my face. I'm not looking for any kind of fame or popularity. I don't say my name, you guys. Some of you figured out who I really am. But this isn't the purpose. The purpose is the magazine cover. That's why you guys are here, and that's what I try to focus on. And that's the whole reason that I continue just to show the front cover. But I'm going to try to do something here and make this work with a little editing. And hopefully I'll upload this, and I ain't wasting my time with it. Because if it doesn't look good, it's not going up. Superstar now taking on Mascaras on the front cover from the month prior in January. You've seen the program for the Garden. Here it is 1 month. Actually, it was 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks later. Gong has the issue, and it's on the front cover of the Japanese magazine of taking on Mil Mascaras. Great looking shot of Mascaras and Superstar. And the boxing magazine International. So it alternates. World Boxing 1 month, International Boxing the next month. And they're both published by Stanley Weston. And they were the two. So boxing wasn't as popular, not as popular, but not as much boxing going on as wrestling. Wrestling clobbered it. You'd have, you know, 10 matches a week, and you'd have maybe one match every 3-4 months from, say, Ali or Frazier or Foreman. So they didn't fight as much. So you're not going to be having that much content to put in a magazine every month. So they went every other month, 2 publications, and we're talking about Ali versus Ernie Shavers. Ernie Shavers was winning the fight, had Ali on his heels up until the 15th round, and Ali just hit the fountain of youth or something was in his juice and comes out battering the Ernie and wins the fight by the skin of his teeth. But there's a chink in Ali's armor that may have been exposed here, kind of giving a signal that Ali's days might be numbered. Dusty Rhodes, shocker, back on another cover, March of 1978. Superstar. Now, mind you, we're still in Superstar Graham's heavyweight championship run. The magazines, like I said, 3 to 4 months down the road, we're not going to see Backlund had won the title yet. So Superstar is still a champion. Steamboat starting his feud with Flair, 1978 March. The wrestler Peter Maivia here challenging Superstar at the Garden for the title. And you know, all these years as a kid, I always seen the trunks here, and I thought his tattoos were his pants. I never knew that was his tattoos till later on. I was just like, wow, you know, that's pretty wild. I heard he went through some excruciating hell getting those tattoos on his legs. Wow. Andre now in the Carolinas with Flair and Greg Valentine, the Mid-Atlantic World Tag Team Champions, and they're about to have a big split up in the future and start a brutal war between Valentine and Flair. Dusty Rhodes on the cover once again during one of the strap matches in Florida with Superstar Graham holding the strap. bloodied up superstar like none other. Looks like he's wearing a mask across his face, Dusty as well. And a bloody Andre the Giant, yearbook 1978. Superstar continuing his on-again, off-again feud with Ivan Putski, spring of '78, Sports Review Greatest Battles. Kevin Sullivan on the bottom, Bob Roop on the top. Why Kevin Sullivan wants to end Bob Roop's career. Wrestling Monthly. Big Book of Wrestling put out an issue in March. Baron von Raschke and War Carpentier on the cover, covering some matches in the AWA and also Canada territory. Bob Backlund takes the cover in a return bout, March the 20th, 1978. Rematch Graham challenging Backlund for his title back. Sadly, and on the back cover is just a shot of Andre the Giant. Harley Race takes the cover of Gong as world champion NWA. Mascaras and Dragon Fujinami shaking hands in Japan. On the bottom, also superstar Billy Graham with the Grand Wizard, posing now with his now new blue belt. He changed the leather out just before he lost the belt, and that red version he held for most of his time defending the title that belonged to Bruno Sammartino, and now Superstar breaks it out in the blue for the first appearance on the cover. World Boxing also covering the Ali Shavers fight. Also, this is the March issue, which is the year-end awards. Boxer of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Fight of the Year, so on. Just like the wrestling magazines, World Boxing also covered that as well. And looking at Ken Norton, a battering ram fighter, brawler, first fully muscular, chiseled boxer. We'll talk about him in a few more minutes, but man, really making his name in the boxing business and really takes it to Ali. Ali loses quite a few marbles after that trifecta war those two had. Mr. Fuji makes a cover in a solo match with Backlund, April 1978, and also Superstar Graham at the bottom, talking about Backlund's title win, or what do you call it? The advice he was getting for his title match from Bruno, excuse me. And Superstar again with Mascaras. They had several matches throughout New York. Dusty once again on the cover, April, of The Wrestler. Stan Stasiak, Mil Mascaras take the main shot for Sports Review, April 1978. The Dusty Rhodes Show, once again on a Western publication. Why is he on so many? Because he was red hot and he sold a ton of magazines. That's why. And fans were, I mean, not only fans, the wrestlers were pissed, and they would give Apter a hard time saying, yo, what is it with Dusty Rhodes and Mil Mascaras? You have nobody else ever on the cover. And it's like, it's nothing personal. First of all, it's not me. It's Stanley Weston. I'm only the photographer. I'm getting the blame for it because I'm out in the public talking to you guys and taking your photos. I don't get to pick what goes on the cover. Stanley Weston does, and he goes by whatever sells. Apartment House Wrestling sells, and that's why it's still going. The wrestlers hated it, and Dusty Rhodes is selling right now, so he's going where the money is, and rightfully so. McMahon had absolutely no influence on who went on the covers. He had no influence on who was picked as Wrestler of the Year, Match of the Year, whatnot. That was all, you know, basically the truth. The fans picked those with their mail-away cards and letters and voting. Not each and every one of them were counted, but it went on a percentage kind of a pile. Okay, you have, you know, a pile of that is huge and a pile that's small. Okay, he got 80% of the votes, and that's kind of how it went. This is an annual for Sports Review. Mascaras get a chance to win a genuine Mil Mascaras mask. I actually have one. I didn't win one. I paid a ridiculous amount of money from one from the maker who made Mascaras' masks. And I have that. Actually, I don't think I've ever even shown that. Tony Garea taking on Superstar Billy Graham. This could be a match at Cobo Hall. The Sheik and the Detroit area was the beginnings of dire straits, I guess you could say. Starting to hit some hard times in the city of Detroit and the surrounding area. Wrestling was down. So you really can't blame the Sheik for it. It was just as much Indianapolis with Dick the Bruiser. It was just kind of like the area, and it was just kind of, it was getting tough. So McMahon Sr. was rumored to, you know, send a few guys his way. Backlund would go there. Backlund would have a feud with the Sheik. Gorilla Monsoon, Superstar, Tony Gurria, a bunch of guys would go and try to build up and help out the Sheik a little bit, to no avail, sadly. We cover a lot of that in our NWF and also the Sheik videos. Best of the Wrestler, which is a spring issue now, Maskers and Ric Flair on the cover, also Bruno and Superstar. Match continues the feud. Another Gurria shot with Superstar. And Wrestling Monthly, April 76. Wrestling Review, a Killer Kowalski on the cover with the Canadian Heavyweight Championship belt, April Sports Review. Reginald Love from the Love Brothers on the cover with the WWC Puerto Rico North American Heavyweight Championship title, breaking away from his brother from Partners and now a solo champion in Puerto Rico. Bob Backlund gets exposed to his first taste of a steel fence for an angry, pissed off, and bitter, literally, Superstar Billy Graham here for another return bout. Superstar gets his second, and it's in a cage this time with Bob Backlund. That would make a cover also of one of the Western issues later on, April 24th, 1978. Peter Maivia on the back. Body press program from Cobo Hall, April 1976. Got a match with the Sheik and Terry Funk. This wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to pull this out. I had a bunch of the Sheik's programs. I decided to pull them out just to save time. I thought it was just, I had too much material. I had, another 60 magazines in here that I just pulled from different little territories, smaller ones, but it really didn't keep the flow going. So I kind of just pulled some things out, like programs like this. But decent card while we're here. I mean, Saturday, April 29th at Cobo Hall, and the Sheik and Terry Funk. This was supposed to be Dory Funk here for this night, and it was a change made. He was injured, and Terry stepped in 2 weeks prior, and that announcement is in the following program, because they would put their shit out every, 2 weeks, and sometimes they had matches every 2 weeks at Cobo, and then we get a new program, which was pretty cool. That's a lot of printing. Abdul the Butcher, April 78, gets the cover of Gong. And Bob Backlund, winning the title in February now, is on the cover of Gong, as the world champion. There was some confusion with myself in this magazine maybe 3 or 4 videos ago, and it stumped me because it was misprinted. Come to find out, I have a pretty rare copy of the misprinted magazine that was supposed to be printed in 78, and mine right here is printed 1977 right here. You see April. I was talking to my friend Koda in Japan. He's like, yeah, they pulled that, changed it, and some of them are marked 77 and some of them marked 78. So if you are looking for this, try both dates because you have a better chance of finding it. It's not cheap either, so just beware. Or I could say just be patient until somebody puts one up cheaper that doesn't really know, but they usually cost you 75, 80 bucks, which is ridiculous. Then they want 20 bucks to ship the freaking thing. It's crazy. Collecting Japanese issues is a fool's game, believe me. April 78, boxing. Ken Norton steps up, faces Muhammad Ali, and beats the shit out of Muhammad Ali and gets robbed in the process. And there's not a person alive who can convince me that the Ken Norton matches with Ali that he lost. There's just no way. And I suggest to go back and watch them and tell me yourself. He beat him. He was the champion, and he got screwed. It's just that simple. Something big is brewing in the twilight of Superstar Graham's title run, and it is a confrontation that happened between NWA World Champion and WWF Heavyweight Champion Superstar Graham on Florida television, and Gordon Soley was in the middle of it, and some things were said, and the interview got heated and led us to this who's better than who's the real champion matchup called the Super Bowl of Wrestling. And this issue number 50, volume 4 of NWA Championship Wrestling from Florida program, different than the Grapevine programs from Florida, breaks the story off from the TV programming. And here is the issue. I'm not sure what's going to get cropped out of the video at the end, so I'll make sure I just put everything in there. And this is talking about the confrontation that started off this rumor that these two were going to fight each other. And also on the back, you'll see the dates of the matches. Hard programs to find these three. These are the hype and the build-up to the match that take place in Miami at the Orange Bowl. And the front cover was teasing it. And it says on the bottom here, will race wrestle superstar. Kind of a hint, what's going on? So, two issues away down the line, a couple of weeks later, race versus superstar. It will happen soon. The match is going to happen. The two are going to have it. They're going to go at it. And inside page number 1, race superstar to sign. And they are about to square off, asking the fans where do they think the fight should be, and also asking Superstar. I'm going to try to get a quote here, if I can find it and I can see it because my glasses are not for far away, they're for up close. Superstar Graham indicated that he would consider New York City to be his ideal place for the match of this importance. I would want my greatness at the moment for this to happen and at a facility and not in some crude, disgusting cow manure laid barnyard grounds or some backyard. Harley Race says, I don't care if the match happens in the parking lot or the backyard, the back parking lot of the Holiday Bar. I'm sick of Superstar Graham running his big mouth. Not to mention his narcissistic attitude towards himself and wrestling. So they're just trying to decide where this is going to wind up, and that's also 2 issues away. A little further down the line, Lars Anderson wins the Florida heavyweight title. That's well overshadowed by Superstar confident in victory on January 25th. Final hype up and nice little spread here, talking about the match, what's each one got to say, where it's at, where you can buy your tickets, and there's several places that have the tickets. If you can maybe zoom it in, if you would care to read it, pause the screen and read it for yourself. And pretty cool. These are super, super ridiculously hard to find. These aren't just out there anywhere. I got this from one person who had these. I've had these for several long years now, and I just keep them with the 1978 collection of stuff that I have for this match. And making it to the front cover of the Stanley Weston magazine, Superstar Graham, Harley Race, the most important match of our time. Title versus title, belt versus belt. I'm hearing a hell of a lot of explosions outside. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but wow. There ain't no fireworks going off either. What is that? Well, if the video keeps going, it means everything's all right. Wow, what the fuck was that? Jesus Christ. Continuing on. Sports review, like I said, the most important match of our time, both world champions displaying their title belts. Wow, what an awesome front cover this is. Just telling of the two, one of my favorite covers without a doubt. Anything with Superstar Graham is just an automatic buy. You have to have them. It's just incredible shots of him in that time period. During the match, both wrestlers heavily bloodied up, and man, Superstar and Harley, our Superstar face completely a bloody mess during this match. And this is a May issue, 1978, now in the month of May. 1978 USA Championship Wrestling, and here's a great shot of the field, the great shot of the match, and Superstar and Harley on the cover. I show this several times. I show the inside of it, so I won't show it again. It's one of our back videos, maybe during the Superstar Graham video or possibly the rise of Harley Race. It is discussed and it is shown a few times. I can put a link to it if anyone wants to check it out. Great color photos in there. Japanese were awesome with their color, and they're no exception in that bonus issue of Gong. So it be said, Bob Backlund wins the WWF title from superstar Billy Graham, May 1978. So February, March, April, May. So that's 3 months now that he has been champion. The magazines are just catching up to it. So it is finally out there. The world knows that the superstar has lost the title. Chief J taking on Ken Patera in the Victory Sports Annual. May of 78, Wrestling Monthly, Ivan Putski on the cover. Big Book of Wrestling, George the Animal Steele and Bruno Sammartino get the cover of Big Book for May. Popular Wrestling issue, Superstar taking on Ivan Putski in a test of strength. Monday, May 22nd, Backlund defending his title now against Ken Patera, a strongman. And what a feud these two will have, especially in 1980. Some great matches between Backlund and Patera. Andre the Giant gets the cover with Harley Race on the cover of Gong. World Boxing now also covering the May issue with Norton and Ali. And Ken Norton, World Heavyweight Champion. Yes, even the magazines think so. He took it to him, and he got robbed. So, for all you collectors that are pulling your hair out, biting your fingernails, and pissed off, losing sleep like I was for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, there is no issue for Inside Wrestling June 1978. It took me an exhausting years to discover that. Years. Drove me absolutely crazy. Searching and searching and looking and just research after research, talking to this one, talking to that one, only to find out Stanley Weston decided just, we're not putting one out. And he did the same thing for The Wrestler. After I realized, because I would collect one publication at a time, kind of keeping it like that to complete, and then go by each year and then move my way up. So I didn't realize this was both June issues that was missing. So in the back of my mind, I kind of know subconsciously I didn't, that, hey, you know, if I put two and two together saying they're both June are missing, wow, that's weird. Because when you're searching them out, you know, you needed so many, it really wasn't that important. But when I got close to the end and you can't find them, that really drives you crazy. So collectors out there who are looking to complete the year of 78, it's an easier year. You need one less issue, and there's no June, so don't forget. Absolutely drove me friggin' crazy. Ricky Steamboat with the U.S. Heavyweight Championship belt. Making of a champion, Backlund and Ken Patera on the cover. Wrestling Yearbook, Backlund and Dusty Rhodes. The match the fans demand, a bloodied superstar here on the bottom. And Backlund would take that match on, defending the title against Dusty Rhodes. But it would take place in 1980 and in Japan. And the fans chose Backlund as the face. Superstar taking on Bruno Protege, Larry Zbyszko, Wrestling Superstars, June of 78. Andre the Giant gets the cover, summer of 78, Wrestling's Greatest Battles. Mascaras once again with Putski, Wrestling's Monthly, June 78. New tag team champions, the Oriental Express. The duo spells double trouble, and Tanaka and Fuji capture the titles for a second time. Now managed by Freddie Blassie. Previously, this team held the World Tag Team Champions with the Grand Wizard. Brother teams up with brother in Madison Square Garden. Superstar Graham, his brother Crazy Luke Graham, together for the first time, teaming up in the Garden. Luke makes his run in the WWF. Also, the Lumberjacks win the tag team titles tonight, facing off and defeating the champions Danucci and Dino Bravo. Superstar Billy Graham and the cage match return bout at the Garden from the prior month. Makes the cover of Gong. Great looking color shots in here of this bloody bout. Backlund bleeds for the first time. Gets baptized in his own blood as champion. Taking a look at the lightweight champion, Roberto Duran. First time on the cover for Roberto, and a tremendous boxer. Needs no explanation from me. But it's rare to see a lightweight, middleweight, whatever weight other than heavy on the cover of the boxing magazines, because they did not put them on there very often. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, throughout, it was mostly heavyweights. And you'll see the rest of the way through here. If you watch any of my boxing videos that I put out, you'll see it's 99% heavyweight boxers and champions on the covers. Very rarely did you get a lightweight, light heavyweight, or middleweight. Backlund tasting the blood in July's issue, Inside Wrestling, kicking off a pretty cool looking cover of Graham with a bloody nose, Backlund with a bloody face. Backlund, should he resign as WWF champion? I think we discussed this in another video. Man, it is really going crazy outside. I wonder what the hell's going on. The fans should write in, should Backlund hand his title back in, because Graham's foot was over the rope, and therefore Superstar should have still have been champion. And many of the fans believed that he should have, and they were truly counted too, by the way. Backlund's first title defense out of the gate. The match was set for Jacksonville, Florida. Superstar Graham to face Harley Race in a return bout from their January 25th match. And Superstar lost the title. Therefore, that left the obligation to Bob Backlund to defend the title in the title versus title match. And it was a match interesting enough for the people in the southern part of the country, because Backlund had defeated Harley Race for the Missouri belt just about a year prior, and now they're going for the NWA World Title, champion versus champion. Made for an interesting bout. The people in the Northeast had no clue about it, and really had no meaning to them. So that's pretty much why it was held down there, I guess, and not really talked about. But even the rematch with Graham wasn't talked about, especially in the magazines or on television up here. And that's something you would think that would be overexposed and making, you know, the huge grandstand announcement about, and it was just kind of just brushed under the rug. It kind of sucks. They could have made that huge. Victory Sports Series Wrestling Annual, and this is the expensive mother with all the cards in it. It's expensive because the kids cut the cards out and they got destroyed, and the ones with the cards still in them are few and far between, and when you do find them, you're paying out the rear end for them. This is just my signed copy of Graham and Flair. Never had Mascara sign it yet. I still have a chance, but my options and days are limited for that. I mean, it's probably never going to happen now because I haven't been to a show in several years, and getting him out and about anymore is kind of no more. So I actually have 2 copies of those. And moving on to Wrestling Picture Book, summer of '78, Superstar Graham and Dusty continuing to battle, and Backlund on the top with Billy Robinson, and an older picture when Bob made a short run in the AWA just after he left Missouri and just before he came to the WWF. He also took on Greg Gagne and a couple other guys in the AWA. The jinx that haunts Harley Race. I read that and I forget, because it was almost like the Sphinx jinx, and I wanted to read that. There's also a jinx for Superstar Graham too, but I forget what that's all about with Harley. Wrestling's The Ring Wrestling, July 1978. Bob Backlund is the new WWF champion, advertising that on the cover. July at the Garden, 24th. Backlund takes on George the Animal Steel in a snoozer, I'm sure. Awesome magazine. Once again, we've seen the 1978 USA issue for the beginning of the year, Harley and Graham, and now here they have all of our world champions, Bockwinkel, Race, and Backlund. Awesome photo album. Seriously, some of the best pictures inside. If you're into photo albums, they're all in color, not of the cheap, crappy paper like we get. It was full gloss. There were huge, oversized photos, and all in color. Muhammad Ali, the legend lives on. Souvenir issue put out by Stanley Weston, mail away only, quite expensive, like $5 or so back in the day for ordering these. Talks about Ali's win for the title in '64, recapturing it again in '74 over Foreman, and now hyping up the match that he's about to face Leon Spinks. And there's a big pull-out poster of Leon Spinks. It's really a gift. It's a Dodge match. It's a match that Ali is going to just destroy this young kid. He's nobody. He has 7 fights. He has 7 wins, but he has 7 fights. And you're going to go up against Muhammad Ali, the world champion. There's not a chance in hell that that could happen. Incorrect. Young Leon Spinks comes in and whoops the shit all 15 rounds and takes the title and shocks the world. Absolutely amazing. Leon Spinks capturing the world title, doing what he did, feeling the pressure, stepping into the ring, and just taking it to the champion like none other. This is the 1970s version of Buster Douglas, basically. He would win both titles meaning the WBC and the WBA. He was already, they were predicting a decent future for him, but never world champion contention. I mean, that wasn't even a thought, especially only having 8 matches. They thought it was just a gift match for Ali after the pummeling of Foreman, of Frazier, of Norton, of Shavers. Okay, let's take this young kid in, throw him to the Lions, and let him get beat up. Wrong. The kid took the title and shocked everybody. Signed copy of Leon. Super cool dude, man. Both Spinks were super cool dudes. They were just fun to talk to, friendly, and really appreciative. Here he is holding up the world championship belt, Leon Spinks, once again after winning the championship of the world. He would not defend. I'll get it to you in a second, but it's kind of funny. He gets stripped of the title. I'll explain that in a minute. August 1978, Superstar Graham on the cover with Backlund in a steel cage match for the new month of August Inside Wrestling. August 78, Patera and Mascaras on the wrestler. Mr. Fuji getting destroyed and flattened by Andre the Giant, most likely a tag team for the Oriental Express. Bob Backlund Annual, the new champion Bob Backlund, awesome looking cover, great looking shot of the new world belt in blue leather, and Bob showing off the belt proudly at the end of his bout. Ken Patera taking on Andre the Giant in Best of the Wrestler, and this is again recycled stories and best ofs and whatnot. Wrestling Monthly starting off with an awesome feud with Flair and Paul Jones, and a lot of people don't realize Paul Jones. A lot of them would know him as a manager on Mid-Atlantic TV. Paul Jones continued to wrestle and won titles to like 1990. I have some DVDs and tapes of old wrestling. I forget what the name of the show was. What? NAWA possibly, or APWA. There was like 2. The Fullers were involved. He took the title from Fuller, won the title in like 1990. He shaved his mustache and looked like he was like 20 years younger. But Paul Jones, man, he was out there still wrestling, still doing his thing, and had a long, illustrious career. And he had some bloody battles with Flair. These guys make it on the cover of 4 magazine covers, Stanley Weston's, monthlies, reviews, also from the Canadian issues. There's a lot of that war. Pretty cool action with Flair and Paul Jones. Ken Patera managed by Captain Lou, and Kevin Sullivan making an appearance posing on the cover for the first time in August of 1975. Backlund defends the title against former Worldwide Wrestling Champion Ivan Koloff, August of 78. Back cover shows Superstar, the former champ Dusty, and Strongbow. The Mascaras brothers, Dos Caras and Mil Mascaras, 2 brothers, on the cover, talking about the tag team tournament in All Japan. Muhammad Ali is the $50 million man broke. No, he's not. Watch out for the new and up-and-comer Larry Holmes. Possibly has a hell of a right and known to put a lot of dudes out. But has he been tested yet? No, and he may just be another flash in the pan. Time will tell. Dusty partnering up with Mascaras. They partnered up a lot, quite a few times in the Northeast. The famous cover from Pro Wrestling Illustrated with those 2 that was taken at the Westchester County Center in White Plains here in New York, and 2 guys that really sucked in the fans and dominated the magazines like none other. Spiros Arion, I can't say the same for, but Dusty Rhodes again taking on Spiros in New York. Greg the Hammer Valentine capturing the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship belt. Andre the Giant clobbering on Crazy Luke Graham during his WWF run. Great looking cover of a very bloodied up Harley Race getting the object into the forehead by none other than the Sheik. Bob Backlund taking on Ken Lucas. We can identify it thanks to, you know, I asked about a year or two ago, does anyone know who this guy is? I can't identify him. Never really thought to ask Bill, and I thought, shit, I'll just ask him. Bill, you know who looks on the cover? Oh yeah, it's Ken Lucas. I was like, shit. So all of us were wrong. We all had our guesses. It was a tough face to pick, you know, especially if you're not familiar with Ken Lucas. You know, you're never going to guess who that was. And I certainly wasn't familiar with him at that time for sure. Stan Stasiak gets the cover, former world champion, taking on Peter Maivia on Wrestling Monthly. Dino Bravo gets the main shot of the cover of the Garden, September 25th, for the rematch, Koloff and Backlund. Backlund takes his world title to Japan and has a series of bouts and tag team matches with Antonio Inoki, as well as wrestling each other. Abdullah the Butcher and Terry Funk in a solo match. The Funk brothers take on Abdullah and the Sheik in one hell of a bloody war in 78 and 79 for that All Japan World Tournament. Ali and Spinks 2. Will it happen? Yes, it will. And with some controversy, and for the first time, the world titles are about to be split up. So, Spinks won the world title. He represents both the WBC and the WBA. Spinks promised Ali a rematch for his next fight. The WBC said, no, you're defending the title against the #1 contender, Ken Norton. He refused to. So therefore, he was stripped of the title, kept the NBA title, and went on and fought Ali in the rematch. Norton was the #1 contender. He took on another boxer, a young guy named Tommy Young. For the first time in decades, the world title was decided on a split decision in favor of Ken Norton. Never heard much more of Young after that match either. It's a shame. Guy was a hell of a fighter and stood his ground, went toe-to-toe with Norton, but Norton was too much for him and took the title. Here's the first time you're seeing the WBC World Boxing Championship belt, or any belt for that matter, on the cover of a magazine. Champions were quite different than wrestling champions. Boxing champions were different than wrestling champions. They didn't flaunt their belts in the ring, out of the ring. They didn't take them like everywhere they did like wrestlers and show them off. They were more like a trophy. You got the trophy and it went to your house and you didn't do anything with it. You didn't wear it to the ring. And therefore, you'd never been pictured with it. You would see some color illustrated ones from the ring in the 30s and 40s, but never with the champions wearing them. And if they did wear them, it was the Ring magazine award belt that they were wearing, not the actual company, council, or association's world title. Here's your first look. Sports Illustrated's bringing it to you. A few other guys later on, like the lightweights and middleweights, were also on the cover of a boxing magazine with their belts in like 79. But up until this point, Stanley Weston never put a champion on the belt with a cover. Believe me, I'm a fanatic with belts and championships and lineages. I've searched this out from the 1929 all the way through. This is your first time a champion's wearing a recognized council belt on a cover of a magazine. And it's not even a Western magazine. That comes much later on. Marvin Hagler kind of broke the mold when he won all his titles in the middleweight division, and he would have be featured a lot. But up until that, it wouldn't be until Tyson. It's crazy. And then it exploded later on. In the 90s, of course, everyone wore their titles and their belts were on the magazines. But boxing didn't do it like that, like wrestling. It's a shame. Great looking shot behind the Madison Square Garden arena with Andre and Backlund on the new month of October, heading into fall now. Spiros Arion and Bruno still hanging on. Bruno had just left and captured the WWC North American Heavyweight Championship in Puerto Rico. A lot of people don't know that. After he lost to Superstar, he captured the title in Puerto Rico and was the champion, and now making another run back in the WWF. Ken Patera and Backlund continue their feud at the Garden on the cover here of Sports Review. Annual Sports Review in 1978, and it's signed by everybody on the cover: Mascaras, Reyes, Superstar, and Backlund. Backlund getting whipped by Freddie Blassie, and the cops are coming to save Backlund. Kind of funny. Ivan Koloff and Ivan Putski on the tops. Ric Flair and Andre the Giant get the bottom shot of Wrestling's Greatest Battles. Also, Vivian Vachon in an arm lock. Mascaras gets the main page of Picture Book. Bruiser Brody and Andre at the bottom. Wish they had gotten the full cover shot on that one. Mighty Igor, we were talking about him earlier. Ivan Putski had that same exact gimmick, and here he is pictured with Bobo Brazil. Terry Funk battling with Dusty Rhodes. Those two would battle for decades. The Battle of Texas, the Battle for Pride, and the Battle for Championships. Great looking cover for Wrestling Review because they had some pretty rank covers in the 60s and 70s. Ivan Koloff gets the main shot of the Rings Wrestling in October of 78. Bruno gets the main cover for The Garden, October 23rd, 78. And Backlund takes on Big Ernie Ladd. Mil Mascaras taking on El Falcon, the Falcon, in Japan. And he's got him in a version of the Camel Clutch. Great looking shot. Also, Gong Invitation to the Ring covering that same match between the two. The Falcon, hard to find him on a cover. Never been on any in the American issues. And Japan and Puerto Rico were the only places you'll be able to find him. New World's Heavyweight Champion, Larry Holmes, wins the WBC Heavyweight Championship, defeating Ken Norton, and welcomed the new World Champion, Larry Holmes. And man, one of the best ever. Some think the best ever. My personal opinion, you know, I love Larry Holmes. I met him several times. I have a lot of things signed by Larry. Big fan of Larry. Mike Tyson is my favorite boxer. He's not the best. The best boxer was Joe Louis. Nobody can convince me any different. Larry Holmes, you know, was a stud among studs, though. I mean, what a champion. Beat everybody. And, you know, just... You know, you don't need an explanation from me about Larry Holmes. The guy was an incredible champion and a fighting champion. Had 70 fights, comes out of retirement, and still contends for the World Championship belt. The guy was a brawler and a half. And also featured on the cover of the TV Boxing Fans Handbook Boxing Magazine. And this is a rare magazine, not very popular, was only out for a short time. It's got him on the cover with the World Championship belt. The only magazine you'll find him on with the championship belt. Nothing from Weston, and the pony boxing boots, man, so iconic for that time period. Pretty cool. Just look at that picture. It just takes me right back to that time again. It's crazy. Dick Slater taking on Ric Flair. Steamboat taking on Harley Race on the cover of November. Inside Wrestling, getting to the end of the year in November. Great battle of Flair and Blackjack Mulligan. Actually, this is out of order. This is the new November issue. Blackjack Mulligan taking on Flair in a bloody battle that they had in the Mid-Atlantic. Former friends, now enemies, and this is the Best of the Wrestler, covering the same match but different photos in it. You know, Best of the Wrestler were best ofs. So it was a recycled stuff, but great cover of those two in an awesome battle that hardly any of those great matches were ever recorded, and it's really a shame. Ariane Backlund get the cover November Sports Review. Andre gets the front cover Best of the Wrestler. Wrestling Monthly, November 78. I didn't mention the girls from Japan came in. There was top Japanese ladies world champions that made a tour throughout the Olympic Auditorium and the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Rocky Johnson on the cover, Big Book of Wrestling, November of 1979. He's still out west as well, battling throughout Cow Palace and the Sheik's territory in Cobo Hall in Detroit, as well as the Olympic Auditorium. He would capture the title in 78 or 79, the America's title too, and then soon to be coming out to the Northeast would be Rocky. Not until he got like 82 or 3 before he got to the WWF. 82, I think it was, late 82. November 20th, 1978, and Peter Maivia and Superstar on the cover for that one. Abdul the Butcher gets the title, gets the cover of Gong, and also the rematch coming up with Muhammad Ali and Leon Spinks. Is the fight going to happen? What will happen? Is Spinks a one-hit wonder? Let's find out. Color photos of the champ are in this issue, covering the beating that Ken Norton took over Holmes, covered in the World Boxing issue. Also mentioning Spinks Ali 2 about to come, and now World Boxing covering the new world champion. Fight preview, how Ali and Spinks stack up, 20 different categories, what'll happen, what really hyping this fight up. Everyone wants to see it. Is Ali finished? Was that a fluke? Can he put away the young kid? Time will tell. People are thinking no. Many are thinking yes. Ali still had that reputation, pizzazz, charisma, mouth to piss people off and talk people in the building. And it was, catapulted after losing this fight. Can he capture it again? Who knows? December, final month, 1978, ending it off in Inside Wrestling, kind of like we began in February, back again with Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair on the cover. Andre the Giant and Mr. Saito on the cover of The Wrestler, December 78. Dusty battling with the spoiler for the Florida Heavyweight Championship in Sports Review, December 78. Spoiler becomes the champion. Dusty once again taking on Dick Slater, getting the belt smashed over his head. Slater had taken the title. Dusty gets it back, loses it again, but he's on to the world title run with Harley Race very shortly. Andre holding up a few midgets on the cover of Wrestling Monthly. Very impressive covers. The most famous picture of Andre at the time was in '74 when he's holding 4 girls on his arms. He had 2 on each arm. What a cool photo. It's too bad that never really made it to a magazine cover. That would have been really cool. But it's a great shot that George Napolitano took in the early '70s. Wrestling Monthly annual superstar Graham and Backlund for the title defense inside the steel cage. Good looking shot for Wrestling Monthly, which didn't have great covers either. December 78 Wrestling Review, and another, less than desirable cover from Wrestling Review. Making his way in the World Wrestling Federation is Harley Race, defending his title against Tony Garea. Bob Backlund defends his title against Peter Maivia, and winning the WWF Martial Arts Heavyweight Championship of the World was Antonio Inoki. And one might be saying, what the hell is the WWF Martial Arts Championship? There it is. That title would be given to the Japanese contenders for New Japan Pro Wrestling to be an affiliate with the WWF. And he would soon get the World Wrestling Federation title after beating Bob Backlund in 1980. But he would be the martial art champion first, and he would have a lot of big matches in Japan defending that martial art title. He would fight other boxers, he would fight other wrestlers, Greco-Roman wrestlers. He had, quite the extensive mixture of bouts. He would even fight Muhammad Ali, and then we all, that was the famous match between those two. So he was defending the martial art championship for a number of years. The title would get changed to the Greatest 18 World Heavyweight Championship, and it sounds, really stupid because the translation from the Japanese language to Americans is quite different. So for us, it doesn't sound right, but when it's described, when it's spoken in Japanese, it sounds different and has more meaning than just the Greatest 18. It's kind of hard to explain. Japanese was one of the hardest things I've ever learned to do, was learn that language for my second language. It was very, very difficult. I mean, probably one of the hardest. It's just so many things mean the opposite and so many things sound wrong. And there's a lot of acronyms that are actually for us, that are actually words for them. So it was very difficult. But Greatest 18, the World Martial Arts Championship, given to Antonio Inoki. Dragon Fujinami would hold that. Riki Choshu would hold that. It would end with the Great Muta, and that would get engulfed into the IWGP World Championship belt. That's the lineage of this. Only a few people ever held it. Gong's issue, the Japanese issue, has the debut of Bruiser Brody making it to the cover of the Gong, and there's also Backlund defending the title against Antonio Inoki on the bottom. The Funks take on Abdullah and the Sheik in their classic 2-year-long battle, but most predominantly famous for their 2 All Japan Tag Team Championship tournaments they would face in the finals both years. And what a bloody battle the Funks, the Sheiks, and Abdullahs all had together, man. Crazy, crazy wars, and this covers it quite well. And also the following year in '79. finally ending the year of 1978 with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali does it once again, defeats the young tiger and puts him down to a little kitten and scoots him along his way, takes his world title back, would have a match with Larry Holmes. Larry would completely annihilate Muhammad Ali, and the legend of Muhammad Ali would end in the 1970s. What a great year, what a great look back at one phenomenal time period in American history for wrestling and for boxing. A lot of crazy things happened. It's a time we're never going to see again. It's a time period that's entrenched in my heart that I love to go back to. I mean, I'm living in the past. I'm not really living in the past because I never left it. I'm still in there from my music, my movies, my sports. The Pittsburgh Steelers were about to dominate 2 more Super Bowls. My favorite wrestlers are champions, and things couldn't have been any better at a better time period than then. Thanks for joining me on this video of Look Back of 1978, and I will see you guys on the next.